G'day you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video we're going back to Ontario. Honestly, I'm amazed. It's been a while. Feels good to be back. Talking Basil, Big B, BB baby. I think he would eat your face if you said that to his. In Renfrew County, Ontario, Basil, I don't care Izzle, he had a bad day.
Is it okay to call you Basil? Is that what you normally go by?
No, Basil.
Basil?
Basil had a bad day. It sounds like a kid's storybook. But they don't write him like this. I hope. Let's give it a go. So the old who, what, why, where, when of this old one starts in Renfrew County. Renfrew is in northeast Ontario, bordering the Algonquin Provincial Park. Lakes, rivers, there's a few, if by a few you mean a lot. And enjoying them every year are the at least 100,000 people who reside, with that number seasonally swelling. Renfrew County is known for, what else? Hunting and big ol' moose, Canada style. Given the chance, they'll kill you and everyone you care about. Oh wait, no, it's another big ol' moose. A moose named Basil. Let's meet the dirty dog, the herb himself. I call him the Hive because he's got two B's. Basil Borutski. In September 2015, Basil was getting ready to turn the big 5'8", living at large in his small apartment in Palmer Rapids, right by the Madawaska River. Basil has quite the history. None of it good none of it pleasant relating to any of the women in his life. This guy sucks balls. Just so you know, big moose-sized nuts. On the 22nd of September, 3 women were found in 3 homes across Renfrew County. This was the result of Basil's bad day. All of the women, Carol Culleton, Anastasia Kuzik, and Natalie Warmerdam, were people in which Basil had been romantically involved with at one stage or another. All had called the police during their relationship. Basil had been in and out of the slammer various times for various offences. You can guess which ones. And this still happened. This guy.
And the time now is approximately 9:49 a.m. on the 23rd of September 2015. And I'm going to retrieve Basil from the cell area and move him into the interview room. So do you understand that those are the charges that are being brought against you right now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions about that?
No. I didn't murder anybody.
There are no more serious crimes than murder.
I didn't murder anybody.
That's right, you killed somebody. Correct? Killed 3 people, actually. What's the difference between killing and murder?
That was show. No, murder. Commandments.
Mm-hmm. So it's killing justified. Is that what you're getting at?
I'm saying that.
And I believe it's actually thou shalt not kill.
You're wrong. You better start reading the Bible.
Yeah?
So that is the where, the when, and the who. Now let's get to the what and the why. Basil, the Hive, Borutski was born in our locale for the day, a local Renfrew in Renfrew County, a county where domestic abuse was so bad that in 2012 they unveiled a monument to women murdered by their partners or ex-partners. Basil was number 3 of 8, son of Walter and Beatrice, themselves children of Polish immigrants. Dzień dobry, Borutskis. He spent his childhood days running around Round Lake. His dad, a trapper, his mom didn't have a great relationship. Here, you can see here, he kind of hated women from the get-go. From there we see a familiar cycle. In his 20s, he was in a relationship with a woman named Lynn who moved into his house at Round Lake. She lasted less than a year because he was baiting the shite out of her. In 1977, he was charged with bodily harm. In 1982, he met and later he married Mary Mask. and they would stay in around Lake Ontario. At the time, Basil, he worked as a millwright for Atomic Energy, but later, after a back injury via a car crash, he was on disability. Unfortunately, he would still have the ability to abuse and later murder 3 women. Should have hit him harder. Basil would remain with Mary for 26 years, and together they would have 3 daughters, so more women for him to hate. 3 times Basil would be charged and later acquitted of domestic violence in 1985, 1994, and 2008, when the marriage ended. During the divorce proceedings, his daughters would tell the judge that they had seen their dad slap Mary, pull her hair, push her out of a moving vehicle. One time, he threatened to burn the house down. And then, whoa, the house did burn down!
Because Basil Borutski is a kind, caring, God-fearing human being. So how
You know what? That is a point we agree on.
We need to go back to the past and find out how could this have happened.
That is a point we agree on. Basil, do you care what people think about you?
No, I know what people think about me. I have a few friends that are really friends. The rest of the people in the society are all judging me now on what you have done to me.
2 years after the divorce, in 2010, Basil would later be charged with drunk driving, and this would then... he'd been charged a few times but been acquitted. He'd come to believe anyway that he was the victim. He was not the abuser, he was the abusee. Everybody was out to get him. The Popo, the 5-0, no diggity, no doubt. They had a hard-on for the Hive.
I don't understand any the system is so corrupt.
Well, it's difficult for sure. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's necessarily corrupt, but it's definitely got some.
It's corrupt.
Police harassment. They were out to get him. Basil never did anything wrong. Technically, he's correct because there have just been a lot of accusations and then acquittals. I've covered a lot of shitty people. All of this will come up later during his police interview, which is just a pity party for Basil. He feels sorry for himself for like 5 hours and just bitches and moans about how tough he has it beating his partners. He would also post literally dozens of signs around the county, listing enemies and people who had crossed him, including cops.
What is it about this malicious prosecution? Why did he bring that up? Or what does it have to do with me?
You're a police officer.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
We're part of the big brother. One does something dirty, the rest of us all follow suit and hide and keep the guy safe. The union never had its malicious prosecution on the part of the old people, so it doesn't matter.
Well, first of all, I'm not here to prosecute you of anything. That's not my job, Basil. I'm not a prosecutor.
You're certainly not a positive person on my side.
Well, I mean, I think I made sure you had some clothing instead of that jumpsuit, right?
After you starved me all this, they never fed me nothing, wouldn't give me nothing, not even water. Yeah, that was really nice.
But again, that wasn't me, right? I just got here this morning at about 8:30.
So-called brothers, great bunch of human beings.
And so it was in 2011-2012 that Basil entered a relationship with Natalie Warmerdam. Natalie had moved to Renfrew County from Toronto with her husband and 2 children. By the time she met Basil, she'd been living there for maybe 5 years and was divorced. In Toronto, Natalie had worked in computer software, but as she moved out to the sticks, she decided to change career. She wanted to give back, and so she ended up as a hospice carer. They hit it off relatively quickly, Natalie believing Basil and taking his side during divorce proceedings. Why not? Sure, Basil could be a charmer when he wanted to be. He would move in with her after not too long. This was not seen as a good idea though by anyone. He threw red flag after red flag. He was a drinker, and Basil was known in the county. Known for being what he was. Someone he had been since his school days. You cross the street, if you see him, you don't piss on him if he's on fire. And so, though Basil had never been charged, with the many times he had been an abuser, he had never been convicted, so she didn't see it coming. He'd tell Natalie his ex-wife was a nutbar. Hysterical, you don't believe anything she says.
Maybe you could find out that, geez, Basil was innocent. maybe you could find out that some of these cops done some pretty bad things, and they framed Basil.
He escaped the marriage, not her. You can imagine how this would turn out, and in the summer of 2012, it turned out. He would shout and roar at her all the time, he would hit her, she wanted him out, he refused to leave. He did eventually get arrested after he threatened to choke her son to death and burn down her farmhouse. That was what got it.
Me in jail for saying that I was going to hang the kid, which I did not do, never intended to, never even crossed my mind.
He ended up getting a whole 5 months and serving 33 days. But as the year turned new in 2013, he was out again, out on probation. Natalie, she got a police, panic button, she got a shotgun, she got cameras on her property, she got everything. You would think that would keep you safe. Yeah. Out of the slammer, he moved, staying with a friend, and there, Basil would meet Anastasia Kuzuk. She was a real estate agent, horse riding enthusiast, and she actually ended up living with Basil to help pay the bills of a farmhouse she had just bought. He would rent a room from her. The farmhouse needed work, and Basil said, "Hey, I'm a handyman." Now, whether Anastasia and Basil's relationship was romantic or not, it's kind of been, disputed. Basil would say, no, it wasn't. He viewed her, like a daughter. She would say it was in a later court issue. One night, though, all through the night, he would beat her. At the urging of Natalie Warmerdam, who Anastasia had come to know, she would press charges against Basil, and this time they would stick. He would serve 5 months this time, so no time at all.
She lied in court.
Sometimes people are not truthful.
A lot. She lied a lot, and the Crown Attorney said, it's okay to lie. That was her end statement thing. It's okay, some people lie.
So is that why
What's the point of going to court when it's okay to lie?
So is that why you killed these girls, Basil? Because they're not going to get their comeuppance in court. They're going to lie. They're going to escape responsibility.
If you're a cop, you should know that people that use the system are guilty.
When he was released, part of his probation was to not be within 200 meters of Anastasia. He refused to sign that document. The judge also ordered him to attend like a therapy, don't be a dick and abuse people. These kind of sessions. He never did once. And so it was in the spring of 2015 that Basil, he moved into a housing complex at 5967 Palmer Road in Palmer Rapids. It was shortly after that Basil met Carol Culleton. He'd actually met her a few years prior, back when he was living with Anastasia, and it had been pretty casual at the time. Now he wanted to settle down, and he was set on her. But I mean, at this stage, everyone knew about Basil and his story, and she, wasn't interested like she was, before he was convicted. But Basil, he would not take she wasn't interested like she was before he was convicted for an answer. The only answers he took were the ones he made up here. Yeah. He was mandated to attend Living Without Violence sessions. Nope. Didn't sign probation forms. Was banned from having guns. He had a shotgun. Was banned from driving. He drove all the time. He borrowed a neighbor's car. When he was released, Anastasia, who was the one, who put him behind bars, she wasn't even told he was out.
This is what I want you to do. I want you to look into the past charges against me by those women, and I want you to do that proper investigation from the point of view of what really happened, and then have a retrial, a fair trial, and then we'll talk about reality. So any information you want from me, you can get by simply doing the proper investigation for the past. I was put in jail twice wrongfully Now go out there and find. You're a good cop. You go out and find out why that's wrong. It's not hard.
What were they for? What were you in jail
You
for?
don't have to look very hard to figure out that, no, it's right. Basil should not have been in jail. After you do that...
First step of the investigation is tell me what I'm investigating. What were you charged with?
Don't play me for stupid. You know exactly.
I don't know, Basil. I don't have to play you for stupid. I don't have to pretend when I don't know what you were charged with. I understand you have a criminal record.
I think you're stupid right now to talk to me as if I'm stupid. Just go out there and punch the computer. Don't act like I'm an idiot.
Carol, a widower, was a civil servant from Ottawa, and she had a nice little cottage by a lake. A cottage she was planning on selling, when Basil forced himself into her life. He'd help fix it up for her so she could, you know yourself, sell it for a few dollars more. She didn't ask. He just did. He would show up at her door all the time. People told her he was stalking her. She thought she'd given him clear signs that she wasn't interested, and on the 8th of September she called him to end their friendship. And she didn't think much more of it. She was wrong. Basil later called and texted her for hours, ranting and raving. Now she begins to worry. See, a couple of weeks prior to this, back in August, a few people, were at her cottage having a few scoops. And at one point she sat on another guy's knee. Basil was so upset by this he tore up her flower bed. On the 20th of September, Carol once again tried to let him down gently. She had started seeing someone else, and this once again set him off. Hours of calls and texts, with her just begging him to stop. The next day, the 21st of September, he confronted her at her cottage and placed about 20 handwritten notes on her property. Here's one. I am devastated. I believed you when you said you never fooled around on anyone you were involved with. You know this is not you. The booze is your false friend. Talk to me. It's not too late. That's proper psycho freak show. Get the gun material. Unfortunately, that's what Basil did.
I don't even know the guy's name. Never asked. When she first told me that she was with him, she said that she couldn't live like that, and that was it. I never asked no more questions.
This was a letter Basil's probation officer would receive 3 days later, after the damage had been done. I have been haunted by the system, actually hunted by the system, abused by the system. My own family believe I am an abusive person. I have nothing left, not even my dignity, blah blah blah. There's no use living, there is no justice, I am living in hell. Blah blah blah, I can't take it anymore. I'm getting out and I'm taking as many people that have abused me as possible with me. Justice. He was gonna make them all pay.
And I'm not religious. I'm not religious. I am spiritual.
Spiritual.
There's a big difference.
I understand what you're saying.
And if you did understand, then you'd know the difference between killing and murder. There's an awful big difference.
Well, if I'm hearing what you're saying, there's a purpose to this killing, in the burden that you're trying to take on to change society.
It's called justice. I've never had justice in my life.
From what you've told me, I understand how Natalie and Anastasia fit into this, but I don't understand Carol.
It's the very same thing.
At 7:30 a.m. on the 22nd of September, Basil left his apartment. He had a shotgun. He borrowed his neighbor's car and drove to Carol's lonely cottage. She ran inside, he smashed the glass door pane with his elbow, and inside the house he strangled her to death with the TV cable.
And she said, "This is not you, Basil. This is not you."
He then had a smoke, he emptied her purse, and drove off in her car. It was a real estate agent, trying to sell the house, who would discover her noticing the smashed in door. He then drove to Anastasia's, who had no idea, as I said, no idea he was out of prison. Her sister was there with her, and she saw Basil shoot Anastasia in the neck as she hid behind the kitchen countertop.
There was a little island. And she was standing and she just went down and the gun went off after she went down.
She called 911.
Ontario Provincial Police, where's your emergency?
He came in the house with a gun. My sister's screaming and she's lying on the ground.
Basil then drove to Natalie's farmhouse, walked in the front door, and then chased Natalie through the house. He murdered her with a shotgun also.
I just drove in, walked in the door. She was sitting there. She went in the corner. I followed her. Boom. Walked out. That's it. I don't think it was. And it was funny. It was like I wasn't even pulling the trigger on the gun. The gun was just going off. It was just like, boop. Anyway.
A manhunt then began, the police hunting Basil. Basil was eventually tracked to this place outside of Ottawa, texting his bro. He's just sitting there on the park bench. He texted a few people. He texted his daughter, saying no one had believed him. Right. He was arrested.
I was actually hoping a helicopter flew over this. It's in torpedo now.
He had left the murder weapon in the grass. He left a note beside it. He's a fierce man for the notes, what? I have no gun. Don't murder me. I give up.
Were you able to get any sleep last night?
I have no idea if I slept. It's a steel bench. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what my back what that feels like? No humanity whatsoever.
Did you mention anything to the guard of it?
The answer when I mentioned is that they're not supposed to be comfortable when I asked them to loosen the handcuff because I had my hand cut off. Who cares?
So this was basically just a big fucking pity party for Basil. Yeah, of course he's the real victim here, He's the real victim, he believes.
So nobody helps me figure out what was the right thing to do. Like I'm telling the fucking truth through my divorce, through everything. I never lied and they listen to the fucking lies.
He's just making shit up the entire time. It's fucking interesting, I'll give it that. Eye-rolling might be a better word. Infuriating, even better.
So, in terms of Carol and Anastasia and Natalie, would you say you killed them or murdered them?
I killed them because they were not innocent. They were guilty. I was innocent. I done nothing wrong.
He just makes up bullshit. Like, he didn't intend to drive to Carol's that morning. That's why he took the shotgun with him.
I remember, like as if I was over there looking at myself walking. I don't know if this makes sense, but that's what am I lying about?
When you said you felt like a zombie and you couldn't remember.
No, I'm not lying.
Okay.
That's all I was asking. Being beside, I remember being behind myself, watching myself, walking to the car, from the building. It was like I was over there. I'm here, but it doesn't mean I wasn't doing that. I see myself doing that. Does it make sense? I was over there. I'm here. I'm like a camera, and
It's in fact, it's all very vague to him. The gun shot itself. But for the longest time, he doesn't think he's in the wrong regarding what he did. It's only towards the end that he's like, let me think about it. Actually, shit. Maybe killing 3 people, not a good look. It's a thinker.
How do you feel right now? Not at the time is what I'm getting at. Right now, me and you in this room, empty. Ernie says, and then God, the other part, is saying strongly. Do you understand how what's happened to these 3 women is wrong? Yeah. Would you take it back if you could? Of course you would.
His trial, triple homicide, began in October 2017. He didn't enter a plea, just squeezed his eyes shut. Not guilty was entered on his behalf. It went about as well as you would expect. Basil was found guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life with no parole for 25 years, though I highly doubt he will ever set foot outside of prison. When being sentenced, he yawned the entire time. He was bored with the proceedings. Basil Borutski was a waste of human tissue. He's a coward in every sense of the word. But as you can see, the real issue in this whole one is the system that was set up to protect these women failed in every way. The fact that he was accused so often of abuse and only charged like once, and even that time he was only charged once, the accusations never came up to maybe give him a little bit longer. It just didn't work. And then even when he was out after being in prison, he didn't abide by his probation. And then when he was out, he didn't give a shit about his probation rules, didn't even sign it. And the system, he's not doing his probationary shit, and the system is just like, well, what can you do? Oh well. The system failed these women. If it hadn't, they would still be alive, and Basil would have been in prison or somehow rehabilitated, but I don't know if it was possible for a guy like him. I don't know. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. He should have been taken out to the farm a while ago. And so ends this whole one. The names to remember, are Anastasia, Carol, Natalie. Not the Hive, who was certainly a rash on humanity. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you doing so. Here, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next one. Until then, please take care of yourselves. I love ya.